Ladies and gentlemen, I got 529, if you will. You got an item that's on the workshop, that's serve link protection. That item you'll see is actually on the agenda. And I want to make sure that spend more time than three. If you don't on serve on the agenda, you can ask.
Okay.
A little early. Item number. Because a lot of time.
So you tell me.
I just told.
You weren't even.
Make $100.
That will.
And now.
Awesome.
Honorable Pat Palin.
Present.
Honorable Alex Heath.
Present.
Honorable Ulysses J. Smallwood. Yeah.
Thank you so much. At that time,
Line section.
Mayor, that forth to you this line leak protect in many citizens or resources of bringing back the program as well as the awareness to the additional services provided. Beneficial subsidize repairs and highway. So at this time, I present to you Dana Hazelet, Director of
Good evening. It's y'all are a fun. I heard that a minute will be follow-up question. Did go and various staff and leaders. You mentioned has taken partnered and it residents the water if they haven't pay the anything out of pocket up to 85. The partnership and a continued partnership program will start kind of promoting protection to your resident program in quite starting to your residents about that. More folks who area or missed it the advantage of that. However, water line or home usually the corresponding Folks just don't simply on their water line that can cost hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. And then to be sent to kind of freak to pay for it is where, they sound very similar. And it is an leak adjustment to be able to high water bill just to the here already this high level info because it's things you already know. We know that water leaks are happening both on the private side for the city, but also for your residents. We know that water is leaking, and that does then put a burden on the resident. That high water bill is just a piece to it, trying to find the funds to pay for it if they don't have our service line protection is another piece. But usually the first thing that resident does when they get that high water bill is call the city and say, can you help me? What do I do? I can afford this, or I shouldn't have to pay for it. A lot of them don't even know that this is their responsibility. So by turning to the city, that's taking up your staff time, energy, resources. But at the moment, folks aren't getting any sort of assistance on the water portion of the bill. So they're left to pay for it or perhaps be put on a payment plan. So this solution helps to alleviate the burden and pain for both the city's side as well as your residents. I already mentioned it's unaffordable. It's a big burden for folks. And so as I mentioned, this is a leak adjustment insurance program with cities and water utilities that we are partnered with already. We usually see about 96 to 97% of residents remaining in the program. So this is optional. They can opt out of it if they don't want it. But usually we only see about 3 to 4% saying, no, thank you, I don't want to pay for that. Normally about 96 to 97% choose to remain in it. It does reimburse the city, as I mentioned. It's a little bit different than our service line program. If we send the reimbursement check back to the resident, that might not actually make it back to the city. And we want to make sure that you are being made whole as well. And so we send that check back to you all, and then you apply it. Your staff applies it to the customer's account, making their water bill whole as well. So everyone wins in that scenario. It's usually between as well as $1 to $2 per month for the student. Try to keep it as affordable as we possibly. In yours specifically, we have a program to match really and so it's going to look very identical to what you need. Thing that I touch on for y'all before you ask a couple questions. This charge is added as a separate line item on the customer's bill, but we do work with your staff to send out information to the residents before the program ever starts so that they can be educated on how much it's going to be, and it gives them they're ever charged, they participate, or and pay that, please keep me enrolled. They can still come out at any point, even once the program started, they can still opt out of the program. But if they do not choose to opt out, they would see that dollar charge on their bill once the program does begin. Now, for the first year of our partnership being in place with the city, if there's a resident didn't hear the methods you feel is necessary and adequate to inform your residents of this program. If they miss that information and they've been paying that dollar and they request to have the ability we do that everyone did opt out. They are all protected, even if they miss.
Because that item is on the agenda.
Yes, sir.
Because of the next two items, next item.
Business.
Businesses.
Oh, I'm recording.
To present to you grant booth. Opportunity to represent. Excited just across the country because we do have clients from the East Coast to the West Coast to see how these ARPA dollars are really impacting communities. Always cautious to be part of some of the. So, city administrator. Environments to kind of live an impactful. I think each community, and for you all, a big emphasis is your small businesses, and you want to make sure that they're thriving and they've recovered, and they have whatever resources you have available to them. So it's two kind of buckets of projects. You have your capital projects, which are more long-term. So of course, understanding the funding that's available is approximately $300,000 for the program, less the administrative fees. We looked at what areas and what businesses and what really the communication and feedback from the community for areas that they needed. So we have the capital improvement grants project, which is to help to renovate and expand, and then the relocation assistance. So these projects are your larger projects for the small business program, and these are going to be kind of your long-term investment. Now, we're going to be very careful that we're not bumped up against that deadline. There's a December 31st, 2024 deadline for obligating ARPA funds. So what that means is the obligation means it has to be contracted, committed to a third party. So just all well before December 34th. Also want to give the county the other operating expense. Newer businesses. A lot of businesses, you know, they've rebounded and they've come up with some new ideas post-COVID and they've started operations. So this particular grant is for new businesses that have been in existence within the last 60 days of the grant award. So you're talking about software, advertising, marketing, just general feedback from the community for things they need to get a business up and running. And the other programs are the payroll assistance program and the rent assistance. Now, we're all aware that there was the payroll protection loan program out there and then the EIDL loan disaster. But unfortunately, many of our small businesses are still struggling to meet payroll and to meet rent assistance. Wanted to be careful that these programs, especially for payroll and rent, will bring them current, meaning that if they're awarded these funds, it's sufficient to bring their payroll current to date or a future payroll and their rent current to date. because if they still have arrears, then there's a higher probability they'll lose employees and/or they'll lose their rental. So the way it's designed is to pretty much say that it will be the amount of the obligation or the outstanding amount owed or for future, but it cannot, if they're still gonna have a balance after receiving these funds, then ultimately they will not be eligible for the program because it's, you know, we won't bring them to current. Both of these are considered operating programs, and so the funds need to be 30th, 2020. That should be relatively expended. Obligation fund. That the businesses and who this pot, this pot of funding should be made available to. So we looked at the size of the businesses, that they had to demonstrate financial hardship. Now that's an ARPA requirement. Under ARPA, you can award funds to small businesses if they can demonstrate financial hardship as grants. So we wanted to kind of make sure that it met that test and barometer, because years from now, and if ever your ARPA files are pulled or any of your projects, we know you've met that eligible activity requirement. It's also important that they're in good standing with the state of Georgia and with the city of Fairburn. That they've been in operation as of the date of the application. So for those small incubators, they just have to have been in operation. That they're for profit, they're not nonprofits. This isn't for nonprofits. We're looking at national franchises on a case-by-case basis because there are some within your community that may be under a national franchise, but there's a unique situation. Didn't want to eliminate them from the opportunity. And then, of course, are they up to date with your property taxes, city bills, and obligations? And unfortunately, elected officials are not eligible, so hopefully not. I'm from Maryland, and Baltimore City, we had a little bit of problem with PPP loans. That's a big issue. Today, so we looked at the period of performance. Like we said, we wanted to make sure that the funds we weren't anywhere near that obligation date. So those capital improvement programs, they have until June 30th, 2024. The awards for the small business and like the payroll and rent assistance, we're pushing them for 60 days. If you needed the funds, you should use it. So theoretically, it shouldn't take you that much more time. So submission, we're doing an online portal so that they can go online and be able to fill out. It's a very user-friendly application. What we didn't want to do is make it administratively burdensome, which would be a deterrent to your smaller businesses, your 1 and 2 employees. Like they might be overwhelmed, but we are also accepting by telephone. So many small businesses. That your goal is ultimately for them to be eligible. If they're having financial hardship, if they need those funds, requirements, because and I want your, but that they get a little, they need help and we'll give them help. So with that said, there's hopefully receptive and open for those small businesses that might have been intimidated if it were just online. So we're not trying to keep it simple, and even simple, this is going to be tough for some of them. 2 most recent tax returns. Why? We got to help them find financial hardship. So it's either going to be look at decreasing in their revenues maybe on their tax returns, or maybe increases in their expenses. You know, a most recent profit and loss would be amazing, but we recognize many of the small businesses may not have that. So we're giving them options. It's almost like, get us some of these things and we can help you work through. If all else fails, give us your 2 most recent bank statements. Let's see if you're having some financial hardship there, or any other supporting documents like outstanding invoices or your payroll or outstanding rent bills. So we're trying to look at how we can get documentation to pass the test without them having being held hostage to having financial statements. One of the things we wanted to make sure is that they're going to keep these projects within the city of Fairburn. Your city administrator was very adamant that we didn't want them to get the monies and disappear. So they're going to certify. So when they submit the application on it, it's a part that they certify. They're certifying that they're going to be here for a couple of years. So, which is fair. And then that they will maintain a business way. Them participate across the information. 1st, 2023 at 9 a.m., and we had to put a time because we started receiving applications already. I'm not sure how, we were in the testing phase for the online portal, and we had a couple of applications that we had to let them know, please resubmit your application during the open period. Why is this important? First come, first serve. And we're expecting a heavy volume. We're expecting a heavy volume, so we can't accept applications before the open period. So we sent them a nice note and asked them to please make sure they reapply. Now, right now we have the close period, November 30th, 2023 at 5 p.m. We kind of think it may have to close before then. So what we're doing is we're going to give them a daily reporting of the requested funding amount. So as we're getting applications in, we're going to give them a daily total. This is how much is in the pot. And then ultimately, they may have to come back and make, do we open it, do we close it? If you leave it open, there's that sense of hope that maybe my application has a chance. I think about all of the fear and anxiety people experienced during that PPP loan and that EIDL things. It was high-level anxiety because they think, did mine get through, those time periods. So we're just gonna have to do it daily and kind of play it by ear. Now, if for some reason all of the monies aren't expended the first round, we're gonna open it up a second round until the monies are expended. So until they're exhausted, we'll continue to make it available to your business, your small businesses. So we've already set up various training. We kind of think training is important. We're doing the application information sessions. The first is tomorrow here in person, so I'll be doing a training with them. But once again, it's to help the smaller businesses that might get overwhelmed or a little bit intimidated when you tell them you have to submit an application and all of that. So this is to kind of bring down the pain point, get them comfortable, and hopefully they'll be ready. They missed the materials, able to register. We have tomorrow, but I was waiting for a number increased somewhat, but that's what that training is. That's the application information, and especially the first two before the open period. What we're also doing, office hours. So I'm gonna have an auditor sitting on the phone to say, hey, if you wanna call in and just talk to somebody and help them walk you through or take a telephone application, here is your opportunity. All of that has also been published in all of your outreach materials for them to know with the links so they can just go on, and if they need help, we're there to help them, as well as a project email that is communicated to everyone on the team. So by way of evaluation, so the evaluation is clear. Either you're eligible or you're not eligible. That's all our determination will be. So we're going through the applications based on the eligibility, and we're recommending to this city administrator they met the eligibility requirement. I think also one of the advantages of you all having a consultant that's not in Georgia is we don't even have the appearance of bias. We're literally just taking it. Because we will give them one opportunity. We're going to follow up with them and give them that opportunity if they're missing something. We can't make it multiple opportunities because you got that queue. Yeah. So ultimately, you can't, it's unfair to the rest of the applicants if you spend all your time trying to get, and they have to be responsible. I mean, it's one thing to make yourselves available and provide assistance. It's another to take accountability and responsibility. So we're looking at processing them within 10 days. We've done it. We processed hundreds. So we have a system in place. It's going to be a quick turnaround. I think that's another factor. Nobody wants to submit and say, I can't pay my rent, and it takes 60 days for them to get a decision. So once we make the recommendation to the city administrator, we'll have his package, so he'll see with this program. Evaluate. It's real simple. You meet the criteria, then you're recommended. If they do not, award recommendations, as I said, we're going to give him an evaluation package, award letter, and then this beneficiary agreement. Under the under the ARPA rules, you have to give an agreement. It is a grant. In this instance, because the small business is receiving the monies for financial hardship, they're a beneficiary. So you will have an agreement with each one of those. The city will weeks around, review them and send them back. Then once it's executed, we're gonna send them the whole package for them to sign. And pretty much once they sign, the funds are gonna be released to them in that order. So reasonably, you could submit an application and be funded in 2 to 3 weeks. And I think for your constituents, that'd be a pretty fair turnaround time. Once for the 3 programs, small business incubator, payroll, and rent, they're operating, they'll get their check once the award is done. The other 2, though, the capital improvement, they're gonna have to request for reimbursement because we wanna make sure the projects get done. So you can't just, we gotta put some more checks and balances in there to make sure they actually get completed. So those they will, and then but those they will. Ask them for a time. Particular where it's contingent. Okay, if they're not awarded, we will submit, if we recommend, we just weren't able to get them eligible, when we submit the package, we'll have the non-award letter, and we'll tell them about the appeals process. And the non-award letter will indicate the deficiency. If they can address deficiency and funding monies are still there, they can resubmit. So we will give them the but they will 3 business days. We'll ask them to just respond to the appeal issue. You don't need to resubmit the whole application. Just submit whatever deficiency, provide us with adequate documentation for that. We'll review, and once again, we'll submit a recommendation to the city administrator. So when they're done, another requirement, because these are the federal government rules, I always say these aren't my rules, is you gotta close them out. It is a grant and it has to be closed out. That's gonna be an online survey where we'll have them certify, that they've completed it. They'll have to submit their final accounting. They'll have to submit final performance information. We are using that survey to capture testimonials. We want to use that to say how great this money, how it helped them, and we're encouraging them in that survey to provide. So this is the project email. You all can email. It goes to anybody, that stays open. Sometimes I get asked, if they want my email. I said, that won't help you. It might get lost. I said, that's not the email you want. You want that email. That email will get you everywhere you need to go. Mine might just get you lost. So I have a great team that we've been doing this now since 2021. We have about 18 ARPA projects. Well, actually more than that, from the city of Las Vegas to on the East Coast, up in New York. A couple of cities up in New York. So we've learned a lot, and hopefully we've leveraged that to be able to give you all a program that'll be extremely successful in your communities. So I'll open the floor for questions.
Yeah. Let me, because of 15 minutes, council, can we limit everything to 2 questions so I can get to it?
No. Thing is it? You said council.
Oh. Said elected official, and I can defer.
Mr. Councilman, question we had previously and respond back to by November.
Into your office or something.
Make sure it's on there. We have a 1-800 number 24/7 to first of all, I'm like, please just email it. See that.
Question, where are you located? Like,
County, Maryland.
you are,
Telephone and video, live, those kinds of things.
thank you.
Just a couple of questions. I'd say that once someone was certified in the city, and because they were certified in the city, we get that too. Somebody leaves in 12 months.
We're trying to get to a good faith. The businesses for some that I've personally talked. So I don't know how much challenge that will prove to be. I'd have to see if there is some legal limit, but we certainly want people to know what our and to be at least make the process. Mr. Starkey, we'll figure out how best to.
That obligation, then it becomes to
Where I was going. No, even if some, let's say they, we still want live to the fire.
In reference to how doing this. Opportunities for small businesses, because things. Fear sets in, anxiety and apply. When they have so on research, so I mean, you have, I'm a former business and not for me or whatever. So appreciate training, I appreciate understanding to communities in Fairburn. Ask you have relative to either the development or language in their document.
I'm always kind of always. They don't. We're going to turn it into. And effort. It more burden on you to make the final determination criteria. What does that mean? Did I go out of, did my family? But the good really to say that we resources, if we can, in our city. So you need to be aware to some that may have believed, not to, but I just have not seen.
Other, okay. If they, business for reasons, that is a different, and no, still is the same, quote unquote. I mean, here be okay. Some other or any dollar leave city, what the of if this were
So there are some legal determine what exactly federal dollars consideration. I think the second intention is to make. I don't know that we can. It could lead to a business being viable today and not being viable a year from now. Some of those could be personal, some of those could be business. So I think these on their intent, commitment. Someone in the family of reasons, and so policies that a lot of experience our team is to see where the instance.
I appreciate that. I get realized that this is unique to these perplexed, that nothing guidelines exist that. And I guess the best way to answer comments regarding that.
And you might recall that this program was designed as financial hardship. That is
Right.
actually a program designed in order to say that. Final rules, you can't do it.
But thank you so much. Councilman Whitmore, thank you for bringing it up, because this is, we don't want to have to deal with this on the back end. If we can will be of, let's be clear about question has to do with that the or
If you can use funds, it, and flexibility really assist those businesses derived as a result of. But when you say startup fund, 1 year to give that incubation for your new, more difficult. It's unique to try. So you didn't businesses. You didn't businesses struggling with pay. You want to
start a business.
specifically
How long?
when
Okay. Then the year, though. All right.
Could the important point that I think we need to, you may recall going back to cities that provided by the federal government, those funds for revenue. That is the option that Fairburn and several other cities in the area employ. So cities to move funds in fund. Because business revenue recovery, those guys. We are not specific allotment gotten lost in our because recovery as recommended by GMA. We report to the federal government, but we report on the entire amount, not on individual projects.
Well, thanks for that clarification. That does help, and it helps to answer the question if we were to be asked about, those dollars and how we use those dollars and whether, if a business folds for whatever reason, why dollar. And I extremely some now educated on the have and that questions when asked or raised by because but I appreciate education and
so much for the presentation.
thank you.
That with you. You have to speak up in the mic, sir.
I was just thinking with work with this, appreciate every opportunity. Stevens Inc. providing for you. Ryan, to share some of your financial is to your address related. So you have projects coming up in the future, and how do you and show you the various, and so it's a number of do it Noonan, a number, and I found it okay. Provided this two pieces. One, to specifically look at the campus project, and I have to say, when my associate Branson put this together, he found a picture of the campus project and was able to put it into the presentation. So I have to applaud him for that. I don't know how far he looked to find it, but it looks great. Let's look at the campus project starting on page 3. Let me provide a little background related to that. It was originally financed with bank debt in 2008. I was not involved in that. The city manager and a base was built in 2011. So, with a financing, 2011 that 2017 rolled around. In that particular instance, interest rates had declined, and we issue with, in that case, a bank placement, and saved the city $889,000 by refunding that financing. So it was a pretty good savings. Flip over to page 5. We looked at, there are a couple ways to finance things. In the public markets, you've done those. Get a rating, sell them to public markets, or a bank placement. You've done those too. In 17, we side by side. Market rates are better. Indifferent, we just, and that's what you want. In that have been, had we priced it, it's $581,000 versus a bank placement. We bid it out to a number of banks, as we always do. It was $889,000. It's like the bank placement. Made a lot of sense. Okay. Where are you in page 6? This is what the debt service looked like overall, that particular financing. You have paid up just above the beginning of the little yellow lines there through 7/1/23. That debt's been paid. That's July 1st, 2023. So that's paid up. Coming this year and over the next 4 years, as I was talking with Brian and Tony, they showed me your budgets. In order to meet your debt service, you're going to need to raise rates in your utility funds and other sources pretty dramatically to cover the debt service. And I went back thinking, well, what can we do to assist with that? We don't need to refund the entire issue because the issue that was done in 2017 was at such a low rate, and we're not going to get those rates again, not in this market right now. So let's do a technique that we see done fairly frequently. Grady's done it, other places have done it, is let's take out a portion of the debt. In this case, what what are you trying to focus on? Over the next 4 years, to meet the debt service coverage, you're going to have to raise your rates pretty substantially to meet that, to pay the debt service. Why don't we restructure 3 or 4 years, reduce the debt service? In this case, I'm pulling that out and I'm putting it on the back end of that debt service. I'll show you that in a minute. And so we're making it fit so that over the next, in this case, 4 years, you can raise your rates reasonably 5–10% instead of doing a 30 or 40% in 1 year, which the public does not like. They don't like that. Now, 3 to 5% every year, they're okay with that. You generally don't hear anything about that. But when you do a 30, 40%, they get vocal about that. Okay. I've gone into the documents. We can call any of the bonds at any time without a penalty. We can call the next 3 or 4 years of the whole issue. We don't need to do the whole issue. So we can, in the bond documents, call whatever we focus next coming forward. And those are about $1,000. Refund them and put them in the take. I think it would be a plan. Would investigate that and report back to you what's the best process. A new financing in the amount of $3,890,000. You would have some cost of issuance. We think it would be around $77,000. We think it's about a break even in a present value. It's a little bit of a loss present value wise, about $227,000. The cash flow, because you're putting that debt service in the back, is about $2 million. And let me show you what that impact of that is. Go to page 9, please. Okay. To refund those bonds in the next coming 4 years, it will save you, again, you're going to be running some deficits of really $800,000 to $1 million. It will save you about $846,000 during the first few years. So you're not going to have to raise rates to cover that debt service. Okay, you can raise those rates a bit slower. Okay, but page 10 really tells the whole. I apologize for that, but of it, you'll see what I'm talking about. Index of the 2000 a kind next to the last $196,000 is $2,000. So that's $800,000 in difference. You know, the next year you would be facing $1,195,000. We're taking it down to $368,000 and the like. So, but what are we doing with it? We're pulling it to the very back end. We're putting it into 2034, 35, 36, and 37. So we're just moving it back. At that point, hopefully I'm certain I have prompted some questions. Tony, Brian?
I just want to say thanks to you. When we have a fund and we're moving over there soon, so I expect some of those repairs to go up with more people using those buildings. But you can imagine you know, if we have a debt payment of 1.1 million, as you can see, the payments have been going the way it was structured. And next, we get 1,000. You know, that would be but I think it could address that our for the daily basis, not the foot. In the right.
And deal campus having and clear about projects, some which streets and other help us deal with and so to the conversation, and we thought this was a worthwhile either if this is a good option for us to pause.
And if you done this, I think we're going to have a pause and rate this a bit in a little bit of a pause. We will. I have a sense they're going to in the new year. So if you do, it needs to be done pretty quickly, I think, and it can't. That originally, with them. Now we would within the it's right, but it's this year.
I notice you're saying 0.5%. Okay, so once this 4-year rate,
because that's where the market.
in July, 60.
Say for all intents. Just a piece. 66. 4 years. And it too is going to be in the.
That's what I was at. In my own mind, it will go to
Remain. That is not remains.
that we're talking about.
Yes.
And it's again competitive. It over the next, and you can like debt into the debt service over time.
Do I guess come to Jesus conversation area because, you know, this conversation as a result of being able to have proper public safety, you know, now because the house in order. But I just, if in the world, I could sit here and have this conversation with the council, trash pickup like that. So,
I guess, or, so, very concerned in reference to, and do as it relates to an this will also to be gradual than anticipated.
Yes, ma'am. That is certainly a distinct option that we were considering when looking at this. With that said, it's over 4 years. In addition to need to have is the next 4 years that council could all to reallocate this option.
Mr. Jones, go ahead.
Well, sorry, 4 years, criteria.
Trying to get as close to 220. Get about as close. I don't know on the entire issue. We did then you because the issue is going to hit you. Pay that debt service. You're operating costs to pay it quickly, very high. With what easier. So I don't have to do good example when I was director. I came up with it. To do that.
You know, and I did suggesting that. All right, then, give bank place economically feasible market.
We both think timing wise and the willingness off this debt to do it. Market issue longer and it may take more effort to get there. But I think we can get there at the low.
And my last, the proposal to have an increase that we see. Question develops as well as to you sustainable. Well, I mean, then I have concern utility costs. And from but whole necessary themselves, you know, the additional projects that we
fashion. That is the utility discussion is wholly separate. First, utilities is an enterprise fund. These are general fund dollars. And so we a deep dive with the or study. It is well known that has not they've done a detailed rate study that is coming through and how they did to make the enterprise fund information. Those are worthwhile. The capital project answer. Your question is very well. So that discussion on utility rates, we will engage in the very near future. And fund, water, and whole, and paying, dumping.
Yeah. On project. Presentation today also walks us through funding mechanisms that may be there. Portis Jones did ECG December come in, and but I don't want anybody. This means we don't our utility rate. Need breathing room on which funds and other projects that we want to get done. Other
if you don't mind, interest in the section that we going, second part.
Going.
Specific issue aside, how do you in general pay for a project, capital project? presentation.
The people.
It's individual financing methods. Okay? There we go. General obligation bond. General governmental revenue bonds. All those things. Urban redevelopment agency. New. We're starting to see those types of financings. And another that you've probably heard of, but you're going to see over time, a tax allocation district. Okay, there's detailed information behind each of one of these. Let's start with cash, page 14. Cheapest way to finance something. Most cities, most counties have restrictions on their cash. You are no different. What I'm talking about is the accumulated cash that you have left over from taxes, from fees that you collect, and that you have at the end of the year that is really available to spend. Okay, you have a restriction of 35% of that unrestricted cash to hold into a reserve. Prudent, good thing to do. You know, what if there's a hiccup? You can't collect taxes, you can't collect fees, you have a reserve, in this case 35%. And it's a good, solid, sound reserve. Okay. At the end of 2022, in your audit, you had $20,978,000 in the bank. 35% of that is reserved. And so really the $20,978,000 isn't available, okay? You have to keep $7.3 million of that in a reserve. And so really all you have available is $13,635,000. That's a pretty good chunk of change, frankly, in my opinion. It is. But you probably have designations for that already. That kind of money just doesn't lay around. You know. I will find something to do with it. I absolutely feel confident of that. Okay, but you know, you're prudent public servants, and you'll do whatever is the right thing. All right, what else can you do? General obligation bonds. You've issued those in the past, and I've helped you with them. What do you have to do, and how much can you issue in general obligation bonds? Okay. A general obligation bond of a city, a county, or a school district in Georgia is backed by its ad valorem taxing power and the full faith and credit of this city. You're paying it back. There's no walking away from it. You are paying it back. You borrow it, you're paying it back. A referendum of the public debt, typically you'll see it. May not extend, this is state law, the assessed value of all the taxable property within this city. Okay? In 2000, looked it up. The taxable value of $282 million. It's a pretty good number. You can issue GO bonds up to 10% of that, $128 million. You got to go to the voters to get it, but you can do it, and you got to pay it back. So that's the limit of what you can do with a GO bond issue. Cities and counties limit as to what that sales tax number can be. Fulton County is bumping up against it, and so you really don't see many of these types of bonds within Fulton County. You do out in the state, it's pretty common. You don't necessarily see it in Fulton County. But what you can do is, the bonds are, you have a referendum, the bonds are allowed for 5 or 6 years. You pick out specific projects. You go to the public and say, can we fund this with a special purpose local option and sales tax? They say yes or no. But y'all have some limits in Fulton County, and state sales of 4%, sales tax of 3%. Most other counties in the state, it's lower, so you have some more latitude there. Atlanta sales tax is 1.5%, and then there's an Atlanta transportation or transportation splost is 0.4%. So that has eaten up most of the ability for you to issue those types of bonds. Intergovernment, this about it. Mental revenue bond issued out of an authority that has the purpose in its establishment of to do the type of project that you need to have done. Okay, industrial development authorities, downtown. These jail authorities, water and sewerage authorities. Okay. You secure those. You fund the debt through something called an inter-contract between themselves and that authority, securing that debt. The full faith and credit of the issuer, or the city or county, just like a GO, secures that debt. Okay, they're called backdoor GOs. It is a kind of a glib. At any time. A little bit high intergovernmental. You go authorities. Page. Authorities for the types of projects I'm talking about. You have the Development Authority of Fairburn, and you have a Downtown Development Authority of Fairburn. Those are limited in what you can do. You can't necessarily do governmental buildings, which you might want to do with, a fire station or some type of governmental facility. You can't do those. You can call a building. No. To those.
Minutes, I'm trying to.
Okay.
Need you to speed it up just a little bit.
Okay. Public party set one up. It allows you, depending on what purpose you want that authority to do, you can finance just about anything with them. You can do governmental buildings, you can do utility systems, you can do whatever you want to do. But you do have to go to the legislature to do that on a one-by-one basis. The way you do it is you contact your local delegation, tell them what you want to do, submit to them a sample of the type of authority you want to set up. Once it gets into the legislature, it generally moves along pretty quickly, and they're not necessarily controversial, but they're very well worth having. if nothing else, to put it on the shelf for future projects. I mean, they're very well worth having. So, page 20. An urban redevelopment authority. These are pretty new. Just finished one in Villa Rica about in September. And what you see there is a designated area, and this is in the legislation. This isn't me being mean. The area is called a blighted area. If you have an area that's a little run down and you want to redevelop it, you designate that area as an urban redevelopment district. You don't have to go to the legislature. You can establish it yourselves legislatively in-house. You can finance governmental buildings with those authorities, and you can do redevelopment projects. Okay, you can put in infrastructure, streets, roads, that sort of thing. So you don't have one, and so they're worth looking at. And then lastly, and I have quite a bit of information that I will not necessarily go into. I put it in here for reference purposes. Tax allocation districts, we're seeing these things. But it's for with the legislature, you have to have a referendum, so you have to have the public agree to it. So it has some steps. But what you do is you freeze a tax base, you do a financing, or you structure that you want to increase. You'll take debt service off that you've incurred. A lot of places are doing those, and I've got a list of that one, and it's an acre. Quite a lot.
We're done. 5 minutes. Would you the urban reader that you former question is, what does it take? Yes.
Broad. To go through tail, find a term.
We're in session.
Developed city at the you do an and you can issue authority at the local level, runs out of it. You do sell a contract, but you for can be for some governmental bill somewhere.
Handle that avenue. Thank you.
Any other member of council? No. Okay. I think, sir, thank you so much again. And this will be something, I guess, as the city administrator, do you ever want to close them?
Future meeting, November, we've only got 1 minute to speak with initial option he made, fund, and that will be you for consideration. To let you know that that is, and so you'll meetings. I just wanted to leave you with that.
Yeah, if I can just make one comment. When I first council, urban redevelopment that you talked about, we had a discussion about that, and I thought that Lightning was designated as that area.
So I found no trace of it. Now, I didn't go back further into state records, but we can have somebody do that.
I don't recall if it was or not, but I do.
We'll start. Delay. Oh. If you will, at this time, will you please take at this time, we'll go ahead.
Present.
The Honorable Ulysses J. Small. Heath.
Present.
Pat Palla. Yep.
Okay. With everyone. Apologize. Sir. Please stand. for mayor and city. Pray that you give Amen. The city, the member to adopt all opposed. Motion carried. James, do we have any?
One.
Each speaker 3 minutes. Issues review provided.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Give you the city of Fairburn have, and when and we have care. You all have said small business owners start Birmingham location here. Upon a relationship, law firm was looking to and assistant city develop some thoroughly and commitment. So over and Mr. Mayor Tim, she will make it look forward and represent, but we all ourselves with back being don't in this really just wanted to show our appreciation possible.
Could you just state again the address?
Brandon Street from I-4 North Broad town here. Look forward for a very long time.
We administrator, we're at citizens county now to role in the
Amen.
for the city council October the 9th, 2020 Can I entertain a motion to approve? Second by Mayor Pro Tem. Announce the next item.
The application, all of those applicants, so they have, and the request, the public hearing can be reopened.
Administrator, did you have anything you want to add?
Yes, thank you for that, Mayor. We are looking forward to the next opportunity. Ms. Brookings just mentioned a discussion around that. Council at the previous last questions about road. I am pleased to a contract. There's to council suggestion may be aware explain and be for that the calendar year still kind of a challenge, but as soon as the remaining we'll start just
Awesome.
Question, are there other? Keep it in order. Go ahead. Does any member of council have a question or comment about what was just?
On John. Who's in the parade? Down. Me and Rivers Road. And street as well. I was on that street for 20-some years without a light at that corner. So we really appreciate you.
Mr.
Mayor, extend this road long over coming on board just to and you reach and add that start that project with for lights that right now, and I'm sure they're going to use poles and lights downtown or something just to have uniformity. Thank you.
And I'll just say them and then to meeting has to be for them to technical questions. I would love us to talk, but it relates to the to all opposed.
The next item is agreement for the collection of delinquent property taxes. They're requesting mayor and council approval to execute government tax the collect 2020 new for
Is a renewal of, and, collect get that section recommend agreement.
But ma'am, go
Is there in this?
Here.
Thank you.
Let's go on. We've cities ever. Increase over had COVID and some other. Basically, we signed the try to keep our costs down to avoid that, but it's just unnecessary at this point to raise those costs to cover.
Um, 3
years.
Is it?
So basically, delinquent tax bill, which is around 30 days. The delinquent taxpayer, then if additional 210, but 55 turns. Labor involved creating
The past.
never goes in. There's a problem process and there's no bill. Once you get paid,
Did you have a comment, sir?
Aye.
Harris.
request for mayor and execute an agreement by the city.
All right, well, good evening once again, Mayor and Council. We brought forth a presentation to you earlier, which we will bring back today, again for the Surfline Leak Protection Program. And just to give a brief intro to by Mayor, it becomes to the additional service that it had. This program so it has a limit. The business
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Wonderful. Here with live earlier have in my 8th year. I love it. I love seeing a company that is about helping already the city has become. Do a bit of a we're getting more information to make the for their if they're taken care of. But where program called Surfline is a high a break or a leak. Bill, and if you burst through March from the winter that we experienced. And so the Surfline program is an insurance-backed program that will actually pay for in place and discussing with John, and that protect for line enters predictable. Something as simple as a leaky commode, as we already mentioned, can cause a high water bill to spike. So we know this is happening, and we know that that is causing pain for both your residents, but also for the city. It's an issue that a lot of folks don't know is truly their responsibility. Once that water goes through the meter, it's no longer the city's responsibility. But unfortunately, customers aren't causing these leaks either, and so they don't feel that they should have to pay for it. And it creates a lose-lose situation for everyone that the Surfline program hopes to meet with a positive solution. So since it's unaffordable, we want to make this program affordable for folks. So we keep it as low of a monthly cost per resident as we possibly can. Usually that's between around $1 to $2 per resident per month for the water portion, as well as between $1 to $2 per resident per month. So we comparable to what you folks are doing here in this per resident. Folks About 96 to 97% of residents remaining in the program. So usually only about 3 to 4% choose to decline participation in it. It is optional. Residents do not have to participate, but we do start by making sure everyone is protected on the front end, just to make sure that no one misses that information and is left unprotected. So we're going to work with the city to help educate residents on what this program is, how much it's going to cost, and when it's going to start, so that before this program actually goes into place, they can make the decision for themselves if they want to participate or not. If they do not participate, all they have to do is give us a call, let us know, and they will never be charged for the program. They then can come back into the program at a later date if they would like. But if they do not choose to opt out, once the program begins, they'll see that dollar amount on their utility bill until they decide, if they decide in the future that it's not for them. It will reimburse the city directly for the cost of the high water bill minus the customer's 12-month average. And then the city would just apply that to the customer's account in the form of a payment, making everyone whole in the equation.
Let me bring the item to the floor. In this case, members of council, you have before you a item serve leak protection program. Is there any questions?
I wrap my head around it. The high. Are you all the same neighborhood? The same.
And administer both of them, so to speak, which is the serve line program.
Not speaking into the mic. Bill, thing.
It'll be very clear parameters, but the leak, as long as the leak occurred on the main water line going from the meter to the home or inside the home, any leak or house, technically not. We do have to cover it in the future to be in place. Policy here, since it's a payer the leak. It was high customer and said, hey, go ahead and call on it and them. We're going to ask previous because that $2,500.
You can help me. Then, because the program and your experience.
Inexperienced prices and with finding it as a whole, can you find it? Gives sometimes it's still the same thing. If decide where we can see it out on the property side, to determine we have that border
actually no plumbing resident enrolled it, but to have.
Bit more.
Well, thank you. You say the inlet going to the home, and then you said the property, not to you.
Sure.
Tap off the house. Is there any motions?
Well, that's true, but in most cases, when you're detecting a leak of any sort, we look at when citizen call in and say, do I have a leak? That's one of our service orders that we go. And have anything on you have a yeah. They say no to that meter. If it's steady, then that coming back toward the meter. Cannot just
So, and I'm out there to listen. That city meter because I and make sure that's clear. Okay, and then what you so that would cater.
right. Like you said,
That have air system, so and we have that so we not get falls into the program.
Irrigation, that's one unique absolutely something that we can add on to your policy if you would like that, if you would like irrigation to be covered in the future.
So that was the other consideration that you were referencing. Okay. Also, my other question is, when you roll this out, I understand you're talking about everyone opts in. And then if they do not want to participate, they can opt out, right? So
Your residents did not, and this might not be true in Fairburn, pay who on their utility bill and we don't really see, they just and they're to pay for. Then you're dealing, it's going to start pointing fingers or I did and to have big we collectively presentation year of us being part does miss them. Pain. And we do have the ability to can apply. You know, we are taking it. Want to make sure that they are
Next question. Clear those that are listening. Program is in existence for 12 months. Automatic opt-in.
mm-hmm.
12 months. Oh, for this, I don't want to pay this. And they will get a full refund for that time.
Stay. Sir.
Any other questions?
Mayor. Introduction. And then and or there is well and if you can but you also the line program and then what is associated with
you program starts whatever the city our 90 days they would like to be 30 days serve on and brochure folks are and they like to over the phone sheet of paper folks to details of this announcement like a letter the crowd. So if them we want on so far the ongoing you we can still them or say, hey, it's been months. Really, you all think it's a plan that you think is best. As far as the second question, the service line program, that actually is an opt-in. So that's not an opt-out. So folks do have to proactively sign up for that. I don't for that 3 4 city on it and approved it. Residents on would see information water.
So I colleagues at the reminded me did have the, and they did with that we over or have over 107 residents that now this benefit and re-educate and works junk or leakage related that again that for that and then we get new customers all the time. So there has to be some way to, if the program has been in existence for a year, how are we?
Put an paragraph or about
Clarify that, that's used like that. To
And I will that opportunity to reevaluate here, realize septic have to pay and how it would have that was an option. So do that.
Whitmore.
Yes. Just a couple.
yeah, we only believe and that's we do have a with it, but actually pay arrangements to be we will handle headaches.
And then my final question of you, ma'am, would be
yes. Meter size. So then we do have, there are says in it, but extra cost if there's station.
I received calls fact that we're looking at Fairburn, so I would be remiss if I did not ask a question. What do you have for our seniors?
I wish an actual we the city as type of it's a good question.
Thank you.
And Poplar Street 23-015-1 power grid update for Elder and Poplar Streets to Power Pros Powerline LLC.
Dedication distribution the time to call replacing the old 6, which is aluminum conductor steel reinforced electric wire, which has high conductivity and less swag in the line. It enables high tensions and has long hands. In 23-1 update. June 2023. This bid. Evaluators all concurred with the award to number 23 power grid update. Not to such as
Motion. Is made and say any questions or comments?
not. You look at supply demand. It's a lot. You know, could just can get it to them. Hear that reliable, get material. It's in
this case, a company that clearly has a, I don't want to say according to market, but clearly has a relationship where this type of material company is being manufactured, that would explain why. Yeah.
Element Strategic Council 0 Economic Group.
Population staff strategic plan, which we 24 budget. The R proposal, those evaluate those before you KB
Before you.
Move.
The, what's charge?
So a strategic cities recommendation potentially implement and for Ms. Abernathy awarded in queue since just timeline.
Council. Okay.
Next item is ordinance Article 2 of the restrict camping.
You want to go ahead?
Over the seen a market increase in city. So we've taken steps, two-pronged. We known as the director of the program toward the city and went from identities where we're seeing an increase in vagrant. There are a number of places in the city, some apparent, some went out, and those who may are willing to receive help, a residency program, some other resources to help those who are in circumstances in first prong is in working with Chief Pizillo to address this issue. So we attorney revised the revision that's to ordinance useful in dealing with vagrancy, essentially sleep. Indicated that you notable is not apparent. We actually had the experience. Just share some examination.
Those points with our is the need to provide one, if you don't, as you can see, actively living there. We found evidence of blankets just in that space to just dropping. We're trying services as we can. Mr. Richard this week twice identify individuals in consultation. We think that this
intractable. More effects on business. Trying to be in front of this, so in a compassionate with we use along so that the issue just rounded and is not where we
that is much proactive, and that we don't end up with we chose not to try to even address it. So it's in our efforts to with some of that truth that at this state and Miss vouch for that because they literally completely about it, but get it. So with that, just bring the floor of your council for the one. Let's go ahead, Mr.
On the, I was like, okay, people don't have a homeless, and I parent, it was, and you would see them belong. Things are tough now, and we're seeing that. In fact, there was a discussion in one of my about that we at the human and not just both. And I understand the fact that some people have been living like that. They feel free. They don't have to deal with, you know, all this stuff. We have to deal with tax. I in a both not
Yeah. To involved in how we're right is a big issue. Gonna enforce. Then another one of the classes, homelessness. Or homeless people, evidence so that at the you know what they need to do as it relates to service. Said when I went to that session at GMA, that was really big, saying that even though we had more people technically homeless, you know, it wasn't kind of counted like that when they went around and saw.
So, Councilman Smallwood, we did not see any individuals present at the, of course, see belongings. Full time information. With working with PD, the request for participate in the accounts of hours so that they can people that they need. So we're starting that dialogue in preparation for doing the count at the top of the year.
And Councilman, to your point, I was referencing, it's person we don't. Tip. Not doing. People are coming in. You see the. In talking. A living. Length. Hours. And so, the actual individual, some of it, we won't, it's that they, the last several, and so they've got a set of experience to connect with those folks.
Yes.
And there's help to get it.
Councilman Whitmore actually made the introduction, and the gentleman will cultivate that relationship.
I appreciate your ride along for those 4 hours, but we have proof that we have identified.
Yes.
And with the survey, during the winter, I didn't know, and you gave me a part. Found do have a part in the gateway. We help to in Japan. He had nothing. SSI before. Followed up. He's his own. He with for this level.
Programs it's available. Go through a 9-month program, and so they're setting you up to be independent afterwards. And so I'm just very appreciative of the relationship that we've developed, and I'm just hoping that we can get these resources out to those that need them.
Awesome.
Any other questions? Again, I just want to say, as I mentioned, you just basically validated. I was trying to hang any other local government out, but a lot of other governments are not taking advantage of this program that we're talking about. And that's from what I found out to my surprise. And so I just want to say thank you so much to the staff for that. With that being said, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That
Service. This approve change and for residential.
Again, Mayor and Council. At the council approved after a solicitation and award. That award was approved by a rate of $33. The meeting I had Councilman, several others. I can see, can we, it started initially, should we include, so we with Amway. but we were able proffered a 50 reduce the rate for by an additional four. That's the standard rate. Seniors get that for seniors. Now, that's more than that rate was several years old, and inflation. Pleased that we've been able to find a better rate with the same with the at the reduced rate lower.
Item was a council election contract for that motion. Any? So I just want to make sure current would not in this case position agree please be practice for all the purposes and based on I'm convinced that that was going to far vendor that and there was going to be a their services is talking about having been in the any time a company this well established by that they went astronomical that consider again it's been 18 months I believe city administrator of this act happened what happened and so I staff because that we would so go ahead, Mr.
Did not hesitate to even consider something for the rest of the city. With that, going double dip with it. To some for publicly. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments by council? Seeing all
Aye.
23 is still open. We're still paying bills. I anticipate fiscal year 23 probably being open until early December. So we're still having bills that are trickling in, so I just want to make sure I'm on the record saying that this is as of last week. So our 12-month operations as of October 15th had a $5 million in net cash flow. To date, our general fund generated $24.4 million in revenue with $19.4 million in general fund expenditures. As of September 30th, 2023, the city collected 99% of our year-to-date budgeted revenues. As of October 15th, we had expensed about 78% of our budget. Our property and local option sales tax revenue represented in the general fund primary source of operating resources. Real property tax represents about 43% of our revenue. Loss represents about 22% of our general fund revenue. For the 2023 budget, as you can see here at the very bottom, we budgeted $24,783,515. Year to date, we have collected $24,462,972. Pretty close. Pretty close. For the month of September, you can see at the very on the column September 23 total, we collected $959,935. Again, to the very bottom right, you'll see that's 99% of what we budgeted. For expenses, you can see here the different departments and where they stand at as of October 15th with regards to their operating budget and exactly what their budget versus their expenditures are. The good news on the far right-hand side, you can see that there's nobody who's showing over budget on on their actual budget. So that's something that we really reiterates that everyone stay within their budget. Moving to our next slide with our property tax revenue. As I stated earlier, we have a 98% collection rate with our property tax revenue. Total collected $12,156,951. For the enterprise fund, as of October 15th, the enterprise fund is showing $2.1 million in net cash flow. To date, the enterprise fund has generated $21.6 in revenue with $19.5 in enterprise fund expenditures. The city has collected 90% of our year-to-date budgeted revenues and expensed about 82% of our budget. Sorry. For the 2023 budget and our enterprise funds, you can see here our total expenditures, $24 million. I'm sorry, did I skip a slide? Okay, sorry about that. You can see here our total revenues, $24,192,129. Our year-to-date revenue right now is $21,665,907. For the month of September, we collected a little over $2 million, $2,030,747,747, which is 90% of our year-to-date revenue. And on the last slide, this is the one I gave you a handout for because what we had loaded, I had an incorrect total, which I found this morning. But you can see here our budget, $24,192,129. Year-to-date expenditures is $19,554,375, which is 81% of the budget. One last thing I want to add at the end of this report, Mr. Phillip to expand looking into that, and a citizen get up that's very good. We think and it will not
questions, Council? Mr.
Finance Director looking exemption on behalf of the city. Provide every bond. We kind of, is it even possible? I wasn't sure we would look, and that's encouraging. So near meeting, we will come back with a specific poll by. Moving on to the city report. Great news from the previous month. And all of this is really a result, I need to pause at the very beginning. We have a tremendous staff here, and I know I've said that to you before, and I'm going to say it again. We've accomplished a lot of great things in this city, but most of that doesn't happen in my office. It happens in departments. It happens with staff. It happens with directors and supervisors and workers. And time again, that we're building. They don't just stick to a group. And so that. And any here is because of the staff we have here in this to work with. Said we have some good news in a number. If you not have by the we've started pacing the youth really. I can always say to our down. Process. We believe we are how much funding as going back to council, give us direction as to how to move forward with the future. I need our citizens to know a lot of interest. This process is take some time. It is an act. Going to be more details at the appropriate. A few other highlights. The I-85 at the currently has 59 parcels in total. The preliminary parcel count was 50. GDOT has closed on 43 parcels. 5 options are with the attorney for closing, and 5 condemnations are currently pending, and 6 parcels are being negotiated. So we've made significant progress. A lot more of those parcels are now actionable, and so that's encouraging. GDOT has moved more proactively on that project, and so hopefully we'll have more good news to report on that in the near future. We had a wonderful fire recruit graduation in the month of September, and I believe it was 8 new. They're all excited to see their families all enjoying. And some, the chief has been able to, one firefighter, at least 6'6", that excited city of Fairburn. Cybersecurity is way. We have attempts at hacks almost on a daily basis. And so it is important that we stay vigilant, that training, which I know is maybe a little bit more deliberate than some people are used to, but that's by design. We want everyone to be aware of that ever-present threat and to do everything we can to plan for it. The Duncan Pool and Splash Pad closed their season out in the month of September. The Parks and Recreation, it's a big ask. making sure we have entire staff attended the Georgia Association of Code Enforcement Fall Conference, GACE. It is a state affiliation that allows them to get best practices and training. We're doing everything we can to enhance that process so that it builds to quality of life in the city. And lastly, we had several in-person events to help our citizens with our utility assistance program, which has been a tremendous success. We're nearing the completion of that program, so at the next meeting we'll have a final report for you. But a lot of our citizens their utility bill. I can answer for you.
I have a question. We got heard. Also,
say that quality of people working for the city. I mean, you a brief is people are given on a daily basis. Realize this population one 1850 people in the city limits of was monument used. So 18 people that like been here. I'm in there for got on. I things are going to tell you all the other
Yes. The forecast. I heard Mayor say, and I like that term. Main question out when you read the packet coming in, answered ahead of count. Some you. When it, enough. It's been done. Phone today. So and compare and they where they were. So let's talk about what they band class 3A. Ball is 5A, so not to be used with the foot. First class place 3A. Second musicality and the not what's going on backyard with our band. I just like to just salute the youth and the kids. I know we all a few years ago, so they press. Thank you.
I just want to echo everything that has been said. Congratulations for all.
Yeah, they
that that. Ms. Chris, for the home that you guys are at, have been bombarded with new seniors regarding that issue. You know, we're all getting our tax bills now, and because of, you know, the high property values, property taxes have gone up. That's because of the value. Units, and there was room to County. We're close. Appreciate it. And the you to also read existing one. The two of them to help our residents to as a right size to for itself to do. And so that's what we do as a governing body to just thank you. One last. I just want to take questions to and talk about it a lot because I'm so excited. That is a huge providing residents. They don't have to go, you know, but you know, and it is a track. One, the so one, we approve. Okay. I want to say, oh, really glad you're here.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I did have homestead since my colleague choir of the static that your firm Fairburn took a and sitting up on this the leaders were about a land and you to succeed. And then I will. We have here in the city of Fairburn. They own. That's a not be a fair. Can have, and that within the week, where one since had $1,000 price tag cost. They did the that's a so the time your vehicle, the options, or if it's not a serious safety issue, get it done later. That we have here in the city, and that just speaks volumes about we have with your leadership and also with what we have here in the city. That doing deals, it's not backdoor deals when community business and then the administration the deal. Say we ask you, haven't voted. Year, but let's everybody go out your rights and go ahead and vote for whoever it is. We just want to see everybody exercise. For another, sir.
After bedtime.
Tim?
Ditto. Some of the things that I want to a few things too. I also want to congratulate Attorney Crum for being here. That I want everybody concur. I do want to put out a challenge, though. I'm glad me as last water, but now again, do Monday, you do it on the weekend. Pull, sir, because getting I'm not doing talent. No, that in control of the situation. At once know that they were cities notified and they from don't know that and hear that they got a board day that from civic land come up with a system post that we can citizens is to
Appreciate that. This is little to no about with management. We change this. Water issue is not where we'd like. In as timely a manner, enabling us. I would and made direct commissioner, and we were together. So I expect that to continue to improve. Commissioner Browning is very receptive. Comprehensive in our toolbox. Improvement, there always is. Figure out, are there new ways to everybody? On an early concept, develop a specific the alternate forms of already recognized better forms. That's an ongoing, and then determine are effective, which ones need to be upgraded, alerts and other things that we can use to get the information out. So that is an ongoing active assessment so that we will be better positioned with public need to get something out. And that is the challenge in this instance is, you know, update council to better reach that. The message.
right.
To move that. Those changes.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Going to happen real quickly. As I hear the efforts of code getting training, go beyond the Call of Duty to increase the county set the standard code enforcement basically the money code with administrative of that we're going information is one of and so they were to find out we were far required compliance, but the is one we're not for election. For the question of length, because the vendor for that Durham Lake it's almost 6 to where it is now. Make consider that of those project level that is you've heard all the about the night. I want again at I was going to say it later. What do as but that type of what's right at the polls, and I'm gonna leave it at that. Okay, and so again, I'm very proud of 41 businesses that's actually been brought in the city of Fairburn. Every time a new business opens up in the city of Fairburn, that's a for us. To want to thank this that's by Mayor Pro Tem. Of Atlanta in our effort. And I totally agree with reach area. Some of you guys always can we communicate on the call to we did channel city of Atlanta before 22 months ago. My and so wasn't 12 months case issue here in this. Lately, please tell you about the programs as relates to insurance for that like a small program that we're bringing without the people that can get $9,000 bill and it doesn't have to skip a beat. Again, that small price that you're going to pay for that utility insurance is going to pay dividends. So with that being said, I want to just thank that came out in a executive session. Is it litigation or all in favor say all opposed? That motion carries. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Have a great night.
Have a resolution authorizing the city of Fairburn to enter into an agreement in the amount of $63,000, which is $7,000 additional.
Mayor Pro Tem, any questions? All opposed? Motion carries. And entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Aye.
Good night.